Tebow Truth, our regular Tebow Truth segment.
Well, I want to tell your listeners, too, Roger has taken to the social media world as the Tebow Defender. Follow this man on Twitter, Tebow_Defender. He's doing what he does. He's putting people on blast, and he's keeping people accountable for what their actions. And one of your heroes, a Hall of Fame quarterback, recently in the news talking about Tim Tebow, Kurt Warner, had some quote unquote advice for Tebow, and you didn't like that, did you?
No. Let's just first say Tim Tebow will be defended.
Yeah, and he was, and I've got the proof right here.
Yeah, we want to hear from the haters. We want to hear from the detractors.
Well, and it's easy to hate Tim Tebow. It's been easy to hate him. You've taken the stance that no one's been taking, and you've been right. Go figure.
It must be easy, but I guess that's the genesis of this whole thing. I don't understand why it's easy.
Because it's easy because it's a mob mentality. It's easy just to fall in line and just be another sheep in the herd. It's true, but you've obviously watched Tim Tebow through his high school years. You've been in Florida the whole time, so you get a better understanding of the player that Tebow is that the national media doesn't get. So you've been behind this guy. But let's get to this. This verbal warfare.
Of course, Kaylee Budnick's joining us as well too.
Hello.
Hey, Kaylee. You ready for this tweet war?
Let's hear it. I'm
okay.
ready.
All right. Recently, the Tebow Defender called out Kurt Warner on Twitter. I'm gonna take you through this verbal warfare. I'm gonna go through his tweet and the response tweet, and I'll get kind of your thoughts and take us through this night of November 29th at 8:53 p.m. via mobile web. All right, first off, Tebow Defender at Kurt Warner 13.
Well, first of all, I got an email from Lauren Leeton, and she says, I'm so disappointed in Kurt Warner. I'm like, Kurt Warner? Yeah, what he said about Tim Tebow, and she sent me a link. And I'm like, Kurt Warner?
Right.
He said something negative about Tim?
Well,
and I'm like, Kurt Warner's been one of my all-time favorite heroes. My ultimate hero in sports, and one of the primary inspirations for this program, Talking Old School program, is Johnny Unitas. Partially because he worked his way up. He was cut. He was a low-round draft choice. Nobody gave him a chance. He worked his way up from the bottom, from the scrap heap, to be the greatest quarterback of his era. Some still say of all time. Kurt Warner had a similar experience. The guy was out bagging groceries.
Yep.
And he fought his way through the Arena Football League. He's a man of faith, overt Christian faith.
He's taken
a great family man.
Taken two struggling franchises, St. Louis and Arizona, to their first Super Bowl.
I've been arguably the guy's biggest fan for the last 15 years.
Right, but
he's criticizing Tim Tebow. Come on.
So the Tebow Defender took notice, and he responded. Okay, here we go. Here's the first one. At Kurt 13 Warner, follow him. Rebukes Tim Tebow for religious references. Don't listen to him, Tim. Sadly, KW sold out. KW, very disappointing. Okay. Literally, 5 minutes later, Kurt Warner responds back to the Tebow Defender. Wow, I sold out? I never rebuked his actions, but shared what I learned through my process. There's many different ways to share Jesus. When you first got that and you heard that, what was your response? Because you don't think he was telling him different ways to share Jesus, right? He was kind of... What was Kurt Warner telling Tim Tebow when initially these statements came out?
I felt at the time, and I even feel even more strongly now. I've had a chance to digest it. First of all, Kurt, if you have some advice, constructive advice for Tim Tebow, don't put it out over the airwaves. I mean, why go give interviews? Why go on the Jim Rome show and give your advice to Tim Tebow?
And that was your problem.
Why don't you contact Tim Tebow personally and share it with him if you have some sage advice for Tim Tebow?
Right, especially nowadays, knowing that no matter what you say about Tebow on national radio, TV, anything, it's going to get taken out of context, and it's not going to be used as good. So this
smacks of, and I guess not at the moment accusing Kurt Warner of this, but as somebody who's been in PR for about 15 years, it looks like an orchestrated PR kind of a deal.
Sure.
Because he's talking to a reporter one day, he's on the Jim Rome show the next day. I mean, he's out there with this. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is, look, now's not the time to criticize Tim Tebow, okay? Now's not the time to jump on the anti-Tim Tebow bandwagon. Kurt, that's a bandwagon that's overflowing with millions, or maybe many media types. I mean, to jump on, if you like Tim Tebow and if you respect Tim Tebow, now's not the time to jump on board with the Bill Maher's and the Jake Plumbers and the Mel Kipers and the Merrill Hodges of the world.
So it sounds like you're kind of just betrayed. You thought Kurt Warner, a man of faith, would have his back. And when Kurt Warner doesn't have Tebow's back, who has Tebow's back? That's right.
You said it better than I could ever
Okay.
say it. Absolutely. His position is it's helpful, constructive criticism. And then, as we've just said, now's not the time for helpful, constructive criticism when you're piling on with the Merrill Hodges and the Jake Plumbers and the Mel Kipers and every other media type in the world. And secondly, that's not the format for constructive criticism, Kurt. The format would be to pick up the phone and call Tim Tebow. I suspect he would take your call. I suspect you would know how to get a message to Tim Tebow. Why are you giving this constructive criticism all over the airwaves, all over the country?
Sure, yeah.
The Tebow will be defended. Okay,
Obviously.
That's the bottom line.
That's obvious.
And I want the guys who listen to the show and the world to know, especially the Tebow haters and Tebow detractors to know, and people who might be, unfortunately, like Kurt Warner and Jake Plummer, who might be inclined to pile on Tim Tebow, to know that you're going to get somebody coming back at you, and you're going to be held accountable.
And let me tell all your listeners, you are defending Tebow via Twitter. Man, you guys need to follow Roger on Twitter. It's, again, Tebow_defender. He's living up to the handle.